Hello, Tacoma, and thank you to the folks at Grit City Studio for organizing this inaugural Tacoma Literary Festival and for inviting me to share a little bit about my path into investigative journalism. It's an honor to be a part of the gathering that's going to celebrate storytelling in all its forms right here in a city with such a rich literary and civic tradition. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kamb. I'm a native Washingtonian. I've been a journalist for more than 30 years. I've spent most of my career telling stories right here in Washington State, and I currently work for a nonprofit called U.S. Right to Know, where I use public records expertise to uncover hidden government records in pursuit of telling stories and bringing transparency about public health issues. From a very early age, I always knew I wanted to be a writer, and I was lucky because both my parents and my teachers encouraged that instinct instead of steering me away from it. In first grade, I was chosen as my class reporter for the school newsletter, and in the third grade, I won a young authors contest that came with a trip to a writers conference in Seattle, where I wrote a short story, bound it into a book, and had it added to the Seattle Pacific University Library collection. And for a kid from the sticks in Skagit County, that felt like magic, and it felt like a calling as well. I kept following that path through high school and college, writing for student newspapers and learning how words could shape understanding and spark curiosity and sometimes even change outcomes. But early in my professional career, I realized that the kind of writing that most energized me and I was most passionate about wasn't about just telling daily stories. It was investigative journalism, deep reporting, careful research, asking uncomfortable questions, exposing wrongdoing, and holding the powerful accountable. Since then, I've been fortunate enough to work as an investigative reporter for the largest newspapers in Washington State and for national news outlets like Axios and NBC News. At the Seattle Times, I was grateful to be part of a team of reporters who investigated how cost-cutting and failed regulation contributed to two catastrophic crashes of Boeing 737 MAX jets that unfortunately killed 346 people. And our work got to expose a lot of wrongdoing, and it was honored with the Pulitzer Prize for National Reporting. But one of my most meaningful chapters of my career was really here in Tacoma, working at the News Tribune. I covered City Hall, city government, city politics, and I also worked on investigative projects. But there was one story that stands out to me above all the rest, an in-depth explanatory investigation into how the Northwest Detention Center, one of the nation's largest federal immigration detention facilities, run by one of the most notorious private prison companies here in America, came to be built on the Tacoma Tide Flats right here in Tacoma's backyard. Given everything that's happening in our country today, all of the ICE activity we've seen on our TVs in Minneapolis and Minnesota, and the expanding immigration deportation policy under the Trump administration, that story remains very deeply relevant today. It reminds me that investigative reporting matters, not just as journalism, but as a form of literature that documents power, systems, and human consequences. Right now, across America, there are communities just like Tacoma that are grappling with that very subject, whether or not to build these facilities that will house immigrants on their way to deportation, and whether they want to be a part of this moment in history. Journalism is its own category of literature, and one I believe is essential to a healthy democracy. I'm proud to have spent most of my career pursuing or trying to pursue the truth and asking very hard questions and contributing through words to a better and more informed society. It's my understanding that that's the very same mission that Grit City Studio is pursuing with this inaugural festival, using literature as a bridge to shaping a better society and a better Tacoma. So thank you for letting me share my journey with you, and enjoy the festival.